What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well on this Friday. And we got a little bit of Seattle Seahawks news I want to talk about from yesterday afternoon. Most of you guys have probably already heard about this, but let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty of it. First, if you didn't get a chance to catch the stream that I did with Brandon of the Hawks Nest yesterday afternoon, we talked a little bit about defensive tackles and linebackers in this draft. And obviously, that is not the most compelling area of this draft for Seahawks fans, but we did spend some time on it. Go check it out. Should be up on both of our channels. And yeah, we are getting very, very close to the draft itself. So that may end up being our last bit of coverage before the actual draft. Okay, so we got some news. Let's get into it. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. More on them later. And yeah, Mike Garofalo had this to say. We saw it from a couple other places as well. The Seattle Seahawks have met with Dante Fowler Jr., I think, actually. But either way, I think most of us know who Dante Fowler is. He's been in the league a long time. He was a former third overall pick. Very well-known player. He's had good years in his career, and he's also had some not so good years, but he has been around for a minute. And this is one of those edge rusher guys that I've talked about this offseason. And this is one of those guys that I think would make a lot of sense to add at some point. So let's talk about this a little bit here. So for whatever it's worth, I have heard from some people in the know, like Dan Viennes, I think, pointed this out. Um, there is a very good chance that he gets signed, according to what he's hearing. And I assume they're going to wait until after the draft, because after the draft, there's no comp pick consideration to make. So this meeting might be kind of like a thing where you go, okay, we're going to meet with him and establish that we're going to sign him, but we're not going to actually sign him until after the draft. So that kind of feels like what's going on here, because it would be weird to wait all this time. We are now literally less than a week away from the draft, and then sign somebody that costs you a comp pick next year anyway. So Dante Fowler probably will end up a Seahawk, according to what some people have to say. Not a guarantee, but I do think it seems very realistic at this point, and we need a player like this. And what I mean by that is that Dante Fowler is an edge rusher that has the size and the demeanor and the play style of what Mike McDonald tends to like. He likes the bigger guys. He likes the guys with some power. He likes the guys that can hold up on the edge. Dante Fowler is that. It's not quite clowny, but it's a rough estimate. And if you've been on this channel for this offseason, you know that I've talked about Jadeveon Clowney a lot this offseason. I've also talked about some other guys. But the thing with Clowney, he may not want to sign until the season's already part of the way done. Like, that's what he did last year. He did not sign until the season had already gotten underway. So Clowney, you know he's a guy that doesn't want to sign until the offseason's almost over, because he doesn't want to do the workout stuff. And you may not be willing to take that risk. You may need to feel you may feel like you need to give yourself some additional security before then. You need to know what you have before you get to that point. So if somebody like Clowney is saying, I'm not going to sign until October or November because I'm trying to ring chase, that might not work for you. Dante Fowler, on the other hand, not going to really have that problem in all likelihood, even if he may be a little bit more chill during the off-season portion. Do you like sports? If you do, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. I've had a great time using Prize Picks so far. It makes this daily fantasy thing so easy and fun, and it even makes watching the games way more exciting. And with the cool social feeds feature, you can share lineups with your friends and even follow partners to tail or fade their picks. Obviously, we're in the NFL offseason right now, but we've got basketball, baseball, hockey, all kinds of other stuff, so don't be afraid to test things out in whatever sport clicks with you. You can even pick multiple sports in the same lineup and sweat everything at once. And don't forget about team picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So, download Prize Picks, America's #1 sports app. And don't forget, code HMA, that is HMA, gives you $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So, yeah, Dante Fowler is the kind of player that I think McDonald likes. He's got the 261 weight. We don't know exactly what he weighs now, but given the fact that he's an older player at this point, he's going to turn 32 before the season starts. If anything, he might be a little bit heavier. Now, Dante Fowler has had some pretty notable years in his career. He's also had some that are a little bit more anonymous, but he's always generally considered to be at least pretty good, even when he's not putting up big numbers. He did put up big numbers a couple years ago for the Washington Commanders. He was actually one of their key edge rushers in 2024, the year they made the NFC Championship game, 10.5 sacks that year. So there was a there was a recent bit of evidence that this guy can still get after the quarterback. And even last year when he was on the Cowboys, when he went back to Dallas for a year, he only had 3 sacks and 15 tackles in 17 games, by the way, which doesn't sound great, but even then PFF thought he was doing a solid job. And if you go back to Pro Football Reference, you can see they gave him 20 pressures last year, which is very similar to the number that I think Boye Mafe had, Derek Hall had, and Uchenna Nwosu had. So I don't think he's worse than what we had last year, and you could pretty easily make an argument that he's better because he is a bigger player and a better fit for McDonald than a guy like even Mafe, I think. Like he can hold up against the run. He can hold that edge. And he's also been reliably available. Like you take a look at his career, the last 4 seasons he's had 17 game years. Now, the other thing going on here is that there's a connection with Aiden Dirty, and every time I say his name somebody tells me I'm pronouncing it wrong. But Aiden Dirty, because he was in Dallas back under Dan Quinn in 2022 and 2023 when Fowler was in Dallas. So this is another circumstance where that connection may end up being valuable because we've obviously gotten Jonathan Hankins and DeMarcus Lawrence previously. So that has been that has worked out fairly well. Hankins was okay for a year and D-Law was fantastic, obviously. So, yeah, if that ends up being what makes this work out, then awesome. That's another way that Aiden Dirty is helping this team get better. So, yeah, overall, I would say that Dante Fowler is one of the guys that the Seahawks need to consider signing. And if they can land him, then that helps mitigate a lot of the concern you might have about this edge room. Then you're talking about him and D-Law, who looks like he is coming back indeed. Derek Hall, who, I mean, contract year, you got to do something. And looks like we're keeping Nwosu. If that's the way things pan out, then you're not in bad shape. I don't know if it's great, but you're okay. And even if you're not too impressed by his statistics, I do want to remind you that PFF is still a big fan. And I think they do a pretty good job with these edge rusher types. I don't think their grades tend to reflect poorly when they take a look at edge rushers. I think this is more of a thing where like there are some positions like maybe safety where they struggle, but not really edge to me. Now, if you go to Spotrac, they do have a market projection for him at 1 year and $5.1 million. But this was set before free agency started. We are now, excuse me, we are now more than a month into free agency. And if he signs after the draft, things change a little bit at that point, right? Because teams don't have the money that they used to. So there's no opportunity to build up a big bidding war. And clearly teams have decided Dante Fowler Jr. isn't that covetable or else he would have signed by now. So this price may go down. But even if it doesn't, the Seahawks can afford it, and they don't really need the money for much of anything else, it seems like, other than trying to deal with this issue with the edge position. And yeah, there's no reason not to if you need to, right? You'd much rather overspend by a couple $1,000,000 on a Dante Fowler Jr. than not have him at all and not be able to make ends meet at the edge room during the season because you didn't give him a couple $1,000,000 when you're trying to defend a Super Bowl title here. So even if it ends up being the 1 year 5.1 or whatever, that's fine. It's probably going to be less at this point. And yeah, I think that if it happens, it's a good thing. It's maybe not my preference of the veteran edge rushers that are left, but at the same time, it all kind of runs together. And there's always stuff going on behind the scenes, behind closed doors that we don't know about that affects these things. Maybe people like Clowney have already said they don't want to come, or they've already made plans. Maybe Von Miller's already made plans. And maybe Fowler's the guy who hasn't. Maybe he likes Aiden Dirty. And maybe he wants a ring because I don't believe, yeah, he has not won a Super Bowl in his career, right? Yeah, he has never won a Super Bowl. He played in one in 2018, and that's it. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about this one. Interesting signing, potentially. Not official yet, but makes sense to me. All right, go Hawks. Everybody have a great rest of your day. More videos coming soon.